Ethos lecture and podcast number 6, Forming Good Habits, Prudence, and Sādhanā. With me, Ethos Ananda. The Ethos section is based on my book, Ethos, Complete Happiness and Excellence by Way of Virtue and Reason, by me, Alexander Campanella. It's free, so download it now. What are you waiting for? It's based directly off of Aristotle. It's not actually written by me, it's compiled by me. So if you're looking for some ancient wisdom from the one and only universal genius, the most accessible and practical way to do that is this book, as far as I know. Check out the links below. It's on all the major ebook sites. All right, quick introduction. The last class or lecture or podcast, whatever this is called, we talked about breaking bad habits. Now, in most of these lectures, discussions on Aristotle and his work, Nicomachean Ethics, it's difficult to talk about these sort of things, how to avoid what's negative, because Aristotle doesn't do that. But he does constantly harp on the most excellent individual, what is finest. And so naturally, we should follow his example and pursue what is positive. This is more natural and it's finer. Not in the sense of I'm fine, thank you, and you, but in the sense of fine art. So, fine in English literally means really small little particles like fine sand. And this is actually what a great artist does. They're constantly tweaking the tiny little details to make it perfect. And this is how we should be with our own character and our own life, trying to make it as fine as possible. So, for starting a new habit, we want to kind of jumpstart our life, put on the electric cables and get a little shock to it, and start doing some good things, some fine things, and let's try to make it a habit. If all we need to do is make it a habit, keep the habit going until it's in our character, then we're all set. Here's our plan of action. First, I will define our terms. There's only two terms we need here, prudence and Sādhanā. Second, we need to look at the map. How do we use these terms? Well, it's also really simple. Prudence plus Sādhanā with the correct desire equals everything we're looking for. Good ethos. That's how we get the habit. That's how we get the good character. That's how we get the happiness, the enlightenment, whatever. And then third, we will build using these terms and the map. We'll use a real world example from my personal life on a new habit that I will start based on this lecture and this podcast. Okay, first, prudence defined most simply. This is Ethos chapter 6, verse 20, quote, production has its end in something other than itself, but action does not, since its end is acting well in itself. So prudence is a state concerned with the virtue of action about things that are good or bad for a human being in general, unquote. So this first sentence refers to the previous verse, and Aristotle is just saying prudence is not scientific or craft knowledge about anything in particular. Although it does involve particular details, it's about particular details for our lives in general and not a particular science. Let's also look at the next verse. Chapter 6, verse 21, quote, there is virtue or vice in the use of craft, but not in the use of prudence, unquote. So we can be good or bad craftsmen, as we all know, but we cannot be good or bad at prudence. We basically either have it or we don't. Now you could say within the realm of having it, we can have it to different degrees. We can have it in some areas and not in other areas, and so on. And let's take a quick jump back to Ethos 1:1. There's always a highest good. So what is prudence? Prudence is basically that virtue of thought or that state that shows us the path to get to the highest good. Wisdom would be finding the highest good. But prudence is, in a way, more important because it shows us how to actually get there. And it's way more useful in actually getting us there than wisdom. Wisdom is just for old men. You can, you know, until you're retired, you don't actually need to work on wisdom that much. So if you think there is not a good way to proceed at any time in your life, whether it's starting a new habit or anything else, or you can't find the good way, either way, this just means you're lacking prudence. And that's okay. You can work at it. Also, this is important. Prudence is a meta virtue. It's a virtue of virtue, or you could say it's a virtue that is nested within all the other virtues. So this is not just a means to an end to make a new habit and then you forget about it. This is a lifelong virtue that we need to constantly hone in on, practice. And speaking for myself, I could be vastly more prudent than I am already. But if you want to learn prudence, like anything else, you can associate with people who are naturally good at it. And I got to tell you, Asians are very prudent, especially the Chinese. So my prudence has enormously increased just from living in China. And the opposite kind of person is the Anglo-Saxon white person who is not prudent. Sorry, they're just not. They're good at thinking fanciful ideas and innovating and creativity and all these things. But when it gets to brass tacks, that's prudence, and that's not what, it's just not in their nature. It's not in their cultural ethos. And that's okay. You can still work at it. It's no problem. And there's always exceptions. Ethos 6:11, quote, not only does full virtue require prudence, but each virtue requires prudence. And that means each virtue is inseparable from all the other virtues, unquote. This is really interesting. It's not only showing that prudence is a meta virtue, but that all the virtues are connected with all the other virtues via prudence. And I would say honesty also. So if one can easily and effectively form good habits, one has prudence. Moreover, one has the best possible way forward towards happiness and excellence across the board. Not just for making new habits, but for being brave or being generous or having good friends, anything else. It's incredibly essential. So Aristotle in Ethos, he talks about prudence a lot. And this was not my doing. When I was going through the text to find the most important verses to summarize it, there was more than one verse about prudence that I just couldn't take away because it's so important to the text. And I think it's personally important to Aristotle as well. I'm not sure, I can only speculate on that, of course. All right, let's just summarize. What is prudence? Prudence is the major virtue of thought concerned with practical action in daily life for people's lives in general, meaning not about a science or a craft. Prudence is a meta virtue. We need prudence to have any and all other virtues. Also, prudence is seemingly absolute. It is not within a spectrum the way the virtues of characters are. The virtues of character are. We either have it or we don't. But with bravery, for instance, it's within a range. We can be a little bit too brave or not brave enough or right in the middle. But prudence is not like this. Even the other virtues of thought, like craft or scientific knowledge, they can happen within a spectrum. But prudence is, like I said, seemingly absolute. And it's a meta virtue. So this is one of the best parts of ethos to try to improve on for ourselves. All right, let's try to define sadhana. So this section, this first slide here. This is just from Wikipedia. So here's a quote from the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. Quote, Sādhanā is a discipline undertaken in the pursuit of a goal, unquote. So that's a fine definition. That's very simple, easily understandable. Another good quote I found from N. Bhattacharya. Quote, Sādhanā is a means whereby bondage becomes liberation, unquote. Now, this is a really interesting and useful quote because this is what we're doing. We're starting a new habit because of some problem we have, that is, we're in bondage in some way, and we want to start a new habit to liberate ourselves from this bondage. And so sadhana, again, is a useful term here with an incredible history, of course. It's a very ancient word. Also, I wanted to share the Chinese definition, which is also in this Wikipedia page, which is very interesting. It's 修行. The sound doesn't mean much of anything, but if you look at the characters and how they are formed, and basically what I do with Chinese is I look it up on Google Translate. Google Translate just says it's practice. But if you use this to a Chinese person and you say, "Oh, 我修行说英文, I practice how to speak English," they'll go, "Huh? What are you talking about?" Because actually, this is not practice. This is like a spiritual practice or a Buddhist or Taoist practice. It has a very particular meaning in that sense. So, first of all, Google Translate sucks. They should actually include the religious aspect in their definition. But even more literally than that, if you actually break down each stroke within the characters as I have, the literal translation is basically cultivating one's steps or movement. And this is the best translation, I think, and this is why I love Chinese. The more literal you are with the translation, the more accurate it is to how Chinese really is. It's mostly unconscious for many Chinese people, but with Tai Chi and Kung Fu, movement and exercise is very important to Chinese people for thousands of years. And so and sadhana, or one's practice for Tai Chi, for religion, for anything, is absolutely critical. So this definition, I think, is just really cool. It's okay if you don't, but also we can learn something new. Why not? So why sadhana? Why am I using this term? Why not just something like daily practice? Why not just say it in English? Well, for one, it sounds cool. Why not? Two, it's actually more accurate. We don't actually have a word like this in English. And that's also why I wanted to include Chinese, because the more you understand this word and its historical context, you see we just don't have this word in English. Maybe in other Western languages like Latin or, I don't know, ancient Greek probably. I'm not a scholar there. I just know Aristotle. But German, who knows? It could be there, but not in English. This word is also more attractive, and this is important. When forming new good habits, we really want to enjoy this process as much as possible. That's how we will really succeed. And this is Aristotle uses this concept over and over again in Ethos. And this is an important way to use my book, is you want to check on your own excitement as you read it. If you're reading Aristotle's verses on prudence and you think, "Whoa, that's so cool. This ideal prudent person sounds so amazing. I want to be just like him." That's good. That's why he speaks the way he does. Is to actually motivate you to action, to start doing it. Likewise, if you read it and you go, "Ooh, what's this? Oh, that sounds difficult," or blah blah blah, that's how you know it's a test in itself of your own character. If you read through these verses and you go, "Ooh, it's difficult," or "It's boring," that means you don't have the virtue yet. And that's okay, but it's just lets you know what you need to work on. So why is sadhana a more accurate term here? It does have a generic meaning, meaning just any daily practice towards developing any kind of skill. But it also has like I said, a historical, religious, spiritual meaning as well. Um, Used for any kind of yoga, martial arts, and also music. Music is a good example because music is actually not a mundane skill. A talented and fluent musician has enormous power over their own consciousness and others. It's actually kind of like a it's really a superpower if you actually see it as I do. So more into that here. Math is useful and important, but we don't need a sadhana to learn math. And we wouldn't use this word sadhana. Even if we do math homework every day, we wouldn't use the word sadhana here. That's when we could use a generic word like homework or daily practice or daily homework, etc. But when we're learning any musical instrument, we do use the word sadhana. And I would say the reason for this is built into nature itself. This is logos. The ability to play music ultimately equates to the ability to play with destiny. It's a very supernatural skill. It's a superpower. And it's actually on the same plane as martial arts, mysticism, yoga, meditation, God consciousness, all those things. Music is actually basically on that same platform. And there are many stories in our secular world of um, musicians who get really good at music, but they don't have any other kind of um, moral or spiritual, religious, whatever, psychological kind of ground or stable footing in their life. And then they commit suicide or they overdose on drugs. This is because the power you get from music is so powerful. It's actually a superhuman power. And so we need to be very strongly grounded to use this properly. Or we can just be not that good at music like myself and it's not a big deal. Within the Ethos Octavarium, please see that video for more on that. We're not just trying to optimize our lifestyles, although practically speaking, prudentially speaking, that's actually exactly what we're doing. But what we're really doing is we're changing the structure and meaning of our reality. Once the habit forms, it changes our character, and then that's messing around with our essence. Our perception will change, our destiny will change, etc. There are, I think, only two requirements for something to be considered a sadhana. One, it must be daily with no exceptions whatsoever. If you cannot follow a sadhana every day, that's fine. It just means you need to change the sadhana, make it easier and easier until you can for sure do it every day. And that's it. So actually just 5 minutes per day is enough to be considered sadhana, or even less than 5 minutes. For example, if you're starting out on the spiritual path, whether you're religious or not, it doesn't matter. Food is really important. So you can have a nice sadhana where you just say grace. You can just say 3 words. You can just say thank you God and then eat once per day for a month. And that would be an excellent sadhana for a newbie beginner on the spiritual path. It's that simple. And you have to be prudent and with yourself on what you're actually going to be able to do, what is too easy, what is too difficult, and so on. Another requirement: the end goal of a sadhana must relate to our character or soul, not to anything external or temporary. So this kind of goes back to the math example. Math is a useful skill, and sure, it's important, but ultimately, it doesn't really matter that much for our character, for our happiness, our soul, etc. So we wouldn't call that a sadhana. So if you want to start a new habit, like you want to lose weight, you want to exercise more, that's what we're going to talk about today. That's fine. And you can just start doing that and that's fine. But to call it a sadhana, it actually has a more of a precious or sacred meaning to it. And we do want to put that precious sacred aspect there because that'll keep us doing it every day and that will make the benefits that much greater. And there's very little risk of losing because remember the first part, we can always make it as easy as possible. Just 1 minute a day is enough, but it must be every day with zero exceptions. Now, if we have a 1 minute per day sadhana and we skip out on one day, you can do 2 minutes the next day. That's okay. But try not to get too far in debt. Here's another example for sadhana. Let's say I want to improve in generosity. So I need a sadhana to bring constant and gradual progress with minimal obstacles or setbacks. So one, I could start by giving a homeless person 1 cent or more daily for 1 month. So if we do the minimum 1 cent a month, 1 day per month, that's 30 cents spent in the entire month. So that's super easy. Anyone can do that. Now, maybe you don't live near homeless people, so you could change that a bit. But and then after the first month, or maybe even before the first, it's so easy. I'm ready for the next level in sadhana. I could say, I will give a friend $1 or more daily for 1 month. Now we're looking at $30 minimum per month. Now this is a bit more difficult, and we need some friends. Hopefully more than one friend who just keeps getting exactly $1 every day. But this is just an example, and it really would work if it's fits with your desires and your goals. It could work. And then the third part would be you just continue steps 1 or 2, and you could add to it a large donation, say weekly, once a week for 1 month. Now, if you do this sadhana, and like I said, no exceptions every single day, the minimum or more, if you do this for 3 months, you will literally be a generous person. It will become a part of your character and it'll stay that way for years. And people will love you more. You'll be more happy. You'll have better friends, more friends. That's what we're talking about here. That's ethos. This is a general example. But for it to be an effective sadhana, it must be prudent also. It must be tailored to each individual. So when you start doing sadhana, maybe you've never done a sadhana before. Maybe you've had a little routine, which was, going to the gym a little bit or whatever. But maybe you've never done a sadhana because sadhana really is religious. You cannot skip a single day. If you're thinking about some habit or routine you want to do, and I do it when I do it like 60% of the time, 70% of the time, that's fine, but that's not sadhana. It should be 100%. So when you start doing this, the beginning of the first phase may feel a bit awkward at first, but doable, or maybe even a bit too easy, and that's why it's awkward, but that's okay. By the time you enter the second stage, you're so bored of how easy the first stage is going. And then when you enter the third stage, you're bored of the second stage, and so on and so on. And basically, if you time it right, or even if you just follow your nature, how this thing is going, and you've made the right chunk size for each stage in the sadhana. By the time you're in the third stage, you've already formed your habit. You're already done. And if you continue focusing on this sadhana, making it more and more I don't know, difficult or fine. Now you're starting to literally touch your own character in a very strong sense. Let's say I want to make more money, so I can start forming a new habit to slowly increase my bank account. This is okay, but not sadhana. We can call this many different names such as a habit, a plan, investing, working harder, etc. However, if I want to become a more generous person, because I know that means I will be more happy and a complete human being, I can arrange a daily practice to achieve that goal. This is sadhana. So the main difference here is what's the end result? Once you get this habit, what do you have? If you have a better character and happiness or self-realization, that's sadhana. And for a purely spiritual goal, it is sadhana even more so. Okay, just a quick summary on sadhana. Sadhana is a daily discipline undertaken to develop one's character or aid in spiritual advancement. Should be more generally a daily discipline undertaken to develop something eternal in one's life. Our character is within the realm of the eternal. Of course, we'll die eventually, but because character is not conscious, it's formed so solidly that it's just there in the background day in and day out. It's actually within the realm of the eternal in terms of our consciousness. Also, sadhana must be practiced daily in the beginning phases, no exceptions. And as sadhana advances through time and through efficacy, then it can become a weekly, bi weekly, or monthly program. So, actually, if you want, you can change your sadhana from being just daily to weekly or bi weekly, etc. But it has to be at least daily in the beginning for at least like, it depends on you, but for me, no less than 2 weeks will I be. That's actually not enough. For something really difficult, I need like a month at least every single day to, to get used to it and get good at it. And then I could do maybe every other day, something like this. Again, sadhana only refers to those practices that aim towards the eternal or what is real and not towards what is temporary or fake. All right, so that's part one. We defined our terms. Part two, this is so simple. It's only one page, our map of the territory. I hope it's clear to you now how we form a rock solid good habit that will evolve into a virtuous state of character, bringing us much closer to self actualization, perfection, happiness, the Holy Grail, etc. 1. Use prudence to determine what needs to get done and how to do it. 2. Use sadhana to do it and keep doing it. 3. Rinse and repeat. That's it. This will become more and more automatic the more you do it. At least the prudence part will. Sadhana, by definition, at the beginning you need to constantly renew it consciously anytime you take up a new sadhana. Okay, now let's do it. Let's build a new habit based around exercise. And I will actually do this myself. And I'll post some videos to share with you my updates on this new habit that I'll be doing. I'm sure this is relevant to many people listening, most of you listening to this. We all want to exercise more or be better at exercising or start exercising. As for me, I don't exercise at all, at least not explicitly. I do walk to work and everything, but I never exercise. Basically, never. I really don't need to. And I don't like it, so I don't. But I know actually that's a lie. I need to exercise. It is good for my health. It's essential, and I have to really kick myself in the butt to start doing this. So this is a very personal example. I'm going to use every particular aspect of my life and my character as I can to do this as best I can. So a lot of the particulars here may not be true for you because you're a different person than me, but that's fine. I will still use all the principles from this lecture to build this new habit. Remember, we're just using prudence and sadhana. That's it. And for me, using prudence purely by itself is really difficult. Maybe I'm just not that prudent. But I am really good at deliberation and understanding. Those are minor thoughts of virtue in ethos. So I'm going to start there and then slowly work towards prudence. But if you are ready to go and you're a prudent person, just jump right into it. Good for you. No one's stopping you. All right, so I want to make exercise a vital part of my daily life, especially the way it is for nearly all of my Chinese friends and every Chinese person I've ever met. They just know how to exercise. Now, this does seem to go against my nature, so it will be difficult, but obviously worth the effort. Now, I'm thinking, what if I could just jump right to the end? Let's say I drop about 20 pounds. I get full flexibility, good posture, etc. If I fulfill all those goals and then forget about the habit later, is that okay? Not really. There's no guarantee I can keep the weight off, as I've done this before. I've lost weight and then put it back on again. So what I need, I think, is a strong sadhana. And I can even combine this exercise sadhana with my spiritual sadhana. And this is already the most solid routine in my life. So I'll start by doing at least one japa round per day, no matter what, while I'm doing exercise. What is japa? Japa means mantra meditation. It can be any mantra. I use Maha Mantra, and I have a counting device. I have wooden bead counting device. I have digital one. I have an analog clicker one. So I have a certain number of mantras that I chant every day. That's my spiritual sadhana. And I'm already doing this. I've been doing this every day for months. It's literally the most routine part of my life. I sometimes wake up at different times each day, so that's not a routine. I don't brush my teeth exactly the same time every day. Like, I don't even eat 3 meals a day sometimes. So, this is literally the most regular thing I have in my life. So, if I can unite this new exercise sadhana with something that's already solid and churning away, I think that'll be really good for me. That's definitely prudent. So the key here for me is I I need to when I do this exercise in this new sadhana, it has to be exercise just for the sake of exercise. That's the only way this will really generalize and bring me towards the character that I want in my future. Because I don't like, even if I lose weight and then I get all healthy and that's nice, I don't want to do that and then stop exercising. That's not. This has to be better than that for me. So if every time I'm exercising, I'm doing it just because it's exercise, not even because it's healthy, just because it's my sadhana, then I will have great success that will last a long time. So I need an exercise I can do while also doing japa. Now, because I have this like digital counter, most exercise that use 2 hands I can still do because I can wear this on my finger. But I still want something most practical. Walking or jogging is fine. Uh, Problem is I don't have good knees, and jogging is I definitely won't go running, but jogging is not at all attractive because I live in China and there's a beautiful West Lake in Trenzhou here where I can jog around the lake, but oh my God, just driving the 5 minutes to get there it really messes with my peace of mind driving here in China. It sucks. So I want to do exercise just in my apartment. That's best. I can have my own music on and a nice speaker. That's much better. Or I can have, lectures going on YouTube. That's much better. Podcasts, etc. So I'll do one round of japa while I'm doing stretching or tai chi. That's very mild exercise, but that's okay. This is not to lose weight. It's just because I just want to exercise and just make that a daily part of my life no matter what. Because these are simple, painless, and beneficial and easy, yeah, I can easily do this at home, no problem. And I already know as I'm working this out, the difficult part for me is pushing myself to start doing it is the first step, and it'll be boring. That's the difficult part. I need to find a way to make it fun. That's what'll be most difficult. But what's one way around that? Or at least, how do I get myself to do it? Well, in this case, I'm so lucky because I have you guys, these, you know, randoms on the internet in the world, all over the world who are watching this. Or, I mean, I don't know what the number is. I don't look at analytics that much. But anyway, because this is a public lecture podcast series and I've given my word that I will do an update on my progress, I will at least be able to do this for the first month because if I don't, then I have to go against my word and I can't do that. My ethos is my character is already established enough where if I give my word to someone, I absolutely cannot go back on my word. It brings me pain actually. So it'll be fine for in this case. For you at home making your own new habit, I would recommend this as well. Tell all your friends that you're starting a sadhana and really, explain the weight of that word and what it means to you. And you'll have a real nice, uh, it's better than motivation, base. Yeah, it's like a base that will keep you on track. All right, so now all the deliberation part is done. We can start with just pure prudence. I'll do 1 week of one japa round stretching, and then I'll do 1 week of that plus a round doing Tai Chi, and then I'll do 1 week of the stretching and the Tai Chi, as well as another round doing miscellaneous exercise, push ups, sit ups, walking, jogging, anything that's just exercise for the sake of exercise. So, based on my current work schedule, this is totally doable. Every day I do 16 rounds of japa, and what I'm asking myself to do now is at most 3 rounds per day. And most of the japa I do is while I'm just sitting in a chair watching YouTube. So all, all I have to do is just stop doing that for 3 of the 16 rounds. So this is really easy. I definitely can't fail here. The only thing will be if I can keep this up for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. That will be the real sign. So, continuing on with prudence, just to make sure it really is prudent, I'm going to do an ecology check. This is an NLP term. Ecology means ecology of the person, the individual person, not the human, not the earth ecology, environment, nothing like that. So I'm going to ask myself, are these outcomes or is the sadhana as I've written it down, is it attainable? Is it attractive? Is it ecological? That means, are there any other parts of myself that may object to doing this? For example, do I have some friends who have a relationship with me, and that relationship will have a problem from doing this? That's what we mean by ecology. And is this sadhana well formed? Is it well written in the right chunk size? Not too easy, not too difficult, etc. Is it attainable? Yes, it's easy. Is it attractive? Kinda. I wrote down here about 30%. But now that I'm doing this lecture podcast right now, it's boosted up more because I like how easy it is. So it's becoming more attractive. Is it ecological? Well, it's just a little bit boring, and exercise I've always thought is a little bit pointless. This is just my nature because I'm a philosopher, I'm a teacher, I'm a nerd. Like I live in my head. I'm starting to live more in my heart, and that's good, but I definitely don't live in my body most of the time. I've gotten really good at sensing my body, but as far as respecting my body, I've been really bad at that my whole life. Uh, and I've actually had good reasons for being bad at that my whole life. That's why this is so difficult. But I do know stretching is super beneficial for me now because I see a lot of lectures. Anytime I do an in person class with some guru or someone, I have to sit cross legged for a while, and that sucks. So if I really get a daily stretching habit, this will be so immediately practical. Is it a well formed, well written sadhana? Yeah, I think it's very well formed. This sadhana is linked with my other sadhana, which is already super successful. So this is definitely like a win. This is a big win. Um, the only thing is I just need to constantly fine tune it, scale it up or down as needed. Uh, we're going to go backwards, a little bit backwards, more into deliberation, because this is what I'm good at, and I just want to make sure that it really is prudent. I'm still having trouble with the desire and the attraction to do this. Exercising just seems so mundane to me. Now, if I was doing judo every day, no problem. I don't need any motivation. I could do that 5 hours every day, no problem, because I love it. But just doing sit-ups and push-ups and jogging, ooh, it's like it's not gross, but it's just so beneath me. That's what it feels like. And that's many could say that's it's wrong for me to think of that, but that's where I'm at. So I have to be honest. I'm thinking it will benefit me, but also it'll benefit me very little, or I'll have to wait such a long time before I notice these benefits, and that's just going to be really difficult and boring. But once I do that for, let's say, 6 months and even a year, not only will I be much healthier, but I'll always know that I conquered this kind of incontinence or laziness, whatever you want to call it, and that'll generalize to other areas. There are other things I want to do that I'm having trouble doing, like maybe eating less junk food or reading scripture more often, writing a second book on ethos. That's also what I'm working on. So I'll be in a much better position to do all those things. Even still, all this logos, all this talking, deliberating, it's still not changing my pathos. I still don't feel attracted. I want to do judo. I want to do tennis, even basketball. I suck at basketball, but these games and sports have like a real purpose to them. And I'm okay with that. I can really work with that. But just like sit ups and push ups, Like even if it's towards the goal of losing weight, I just like, who cares? It's like I don't care about that. Yeah, right. Talked about this. Like I see myself as this philosopher, artist, nerd type person. So exercise just there's a bit of an ecology issue here. I feel like it's out of my character to have this exercise habit the way all of my Chinese friends do, but I also look up to them, or I at least respect them for having this, which is just a wise and prudent habit to be exercising. They're healthier than I am. Why is that bad? It's not bad. But I don't have any choice. I can't do judo here. And even if I'm in a place that has judo, it's really difficult. You need the right dojo with the right people to play with, and you need a tennis, you need a racket, you need all the equipment. It's really difficult to get a daily practice and then keep that going for years. I can only do it if I stay in one place for many years. Maybe I'll be able to do that soon. Who knows? But I need something much more portable because my life is on the road very much. Yeah. So for this to really work, I really need to focus on the distant future. The only attractive part here is way off in the future. And that's why I have trouble with this. So I need a way to just not give up, to just keep doing it for like a long time. And I also have to be okay with knowing that I might not even notice the results, even once I get into that distant future. But luckily, this sadhana, as I've laid it out, based on my current work schedule, it's pretty damn easy. I just need to keep doing it. That's all I need to do. All right. So now I found a nice, prudent shortcut, or like a nice way that'll keep me going. I'm just going to do some swish patterns. Before I start the sadhana, I'll look over all the prudence that we've been going through, and I'll do a swish pattern in my head. I'll look at my future self once I've you know conquered all my laziness, etc., and I'll keep swishing my mind until I'm ready to go, and then I'm gonna do it. And anytime I lose hope, I can go back to that swish pattern, and bingo, I'm perfect. Now I know this is prudent. And I also don't like deliberating too much. And this is a good part about too much deliberation. It gets to the point where you say, enough of this, let's just do it. Let's make the decision, action, urgency, do it. All right, so here's my exercise sadhana. I'll do 1 week of stretching while doing a jop around. And then I'll do the next week of that plus another jop around doing Tai Chi. And then the third week, I'll do 1 and 2 plus a third round while doing any kind of miscellaneous exercise. Also, this will be, I don't know, yeah, this will be a serious first month. But if for some reason I don't feel in the mood to do number 2 or 3, another rule I'm making here for myself is I will never do less than 1 round per day of some kind of explicit exercise, including push ups, sit ups, whatever. Now, this is really important because this rule, point number 4 here, this I can keep for years into the future. So this will be the key thing that I think will really work here. And number 5, if I catch myself being lazy, making excuses, just do a swish pattern. And then I'll get the motivation to do it. That's it. The only thing left is to check up on the sadhana. In the beginning, we should definitely make sure we stick to it every day. After a couple weeks or a month, We can check up on our sadhana just once a week. By that time, it's kind of a routine and you don't think about it that much. After a month or two, you can add to the sadhana, make it more difficult. You can dig deeper into its quality, make it more fine. Or ideally, it's already a habit and you just don't consciously attend to it anymore. Like, I don't have to consciously think about shaving my head. I just kind of feel, oh, it's a little itchy up there, and I shave it off. That's it. Same with brushing teeth. I actually did have to make brushing teeth a habit. I would sometimes go 2 days, 3 days without doing that. This is embarrassing to say, but this is, I don't know, high school, college days. So I had to, and I knew how stupid this was. So I had to force myself to do it. However, I did it back then, but it worked. Now I don't think about it anymore. One more point. To be true sadhana, we should never give it up. Though we can change our focus to more important sadhanas. Remember, the sadhana has a dimension of the eternal here. So we don't ever give up a sadhana. Otherwise, it's not a sadhana. All right, now here's a conclusion of this whole lecture podcast so far. Forming a new good habit is simple. It's very simple. Very simple in theory, but can be difficult and messy in practice. That's okay. Don't give up. One, use prudence to determine which habit is best to start, how to start it, and all the other details. Two, once that prudence stage is complete, it should be considered a sadhana and must be practiced daily, no exceptions. Now, one thing I'm going to recommend here to transfer from prudence to sadhana, because this is actually a qualitative leap. They're connected, but they're not on the same platform. So we can do a little ritual or ceremony. Doesn't I'm not talking about voodoo magic, but just something to remind ourselves that we're about to embark on a really meaningful part of our destiny here, and we really need to treat it like that's what it is, because that's what it is. So for me, just doing a swish pattern before I start, that's enough. You can say a prayer, you can do both. You can go to your favorite restaurant and just kind of celebrate the fact that you've well formed the sadhana and you're ready to get to the next level. Anything like that. That's what I mean by ritual or ceremony. It doesn't have to be religious or spiritual. It can be just anything to remind yourself that you're doing something really significant for yourself. You're taking care of yourself, and yeah, it's like our character is like the temple of our soul, and a sadhana is like cleaning the temple. So before we clean the temple, we should clean ourselves, or at least recognize, ring a bell before you enter the temple. You just recognize that you're about to do something very meaningful. If our prudence and sadhana are well formed and acted on, all there is left to do is check on our progress. Now you can Google this. I Googled this in a second. It takes 18 to 250 days to form a habit. So there's a huge variance there, but we should at least check before 18 days are passed. So I will make another video to show when I start the sadhana and a second video at the end of the first month of the sadhana that I will actually do myself. But I'm not going to start right now because in just less than 2 weeks, I'm going to Indonesia, to Bali, for Chinese New Year vacation. So I mean, I could do it while I'm over there, but I really want to just enjoy my vacation. So after I get back, I will start this. All right, please download my book on ethos and don't forget to write a review and share and comment and subscribe, etc., and so on and so forth. That's it. I'll see you next time. Hashtag ethos growing, hashtag logos rising. Goodbye.